just recorded this whole podcast, right? Stopped it, went to go save. This whole motherfucker didn't save. The whole fucking thing didn't save. That shit's wild business. Wild business. But let's get back into it. About to let the vibe play again. We starting Sunday, and this is just how we gonna go. When we're first starting the podcast, right? The trials and tribulations of the High Stakes Takes podcast. And you're getting it live and direct here first. But just know, I am fucking pissed. Send the vibe. Oh shit. We just be getting the show that's going on this Sunday. You dig what I'm saying? Damn, man. Really recorded that whole thing and it didn't fucking record. Didn't save, man. That's wild business. I promise you that. That's the wildest business right there. But let's get into it. Fuck it, right? Fuck it, right? This is how we doing it. Week 11. We're back in the mix. Even though Mixon's not playing. High Stakes Take is back in the mix. Send it. Fucking send it. Week 11 is coming live and direct. It's hot. It's hot out there. And I'm not talking the weather. I'm talking in those COVID streets. That COVID list is filled up in the NFL, man. And shout out to all of them because a lot of it is high contact. So, and we haven't seen anything crazy. Latest thing I heard about anything crazy and with a big name and with the COVID, Jeremiah. Shout out that man. We all send prayers out to you. You know what it is, man. Definitely held it down in that R&B game. Still does. Shit, still be rocking. So, it was good news yesterday to see he got moved out of there. So, this COVID thing ain't no joke. Even though we might shed some light on it, we know it ain't no bullshit at the end of the day, you know. So, let's get into this week 11. We got the latest injury news. Who's in, who's out. We got the starts and sits. Biggest start and sit questions. It's spicy out there with the injuries. We got props. We got locks. And you know we dropping it. So the prop lock drops. We got the parlay of the weekend. It's 17 parlay. Lucky number 7. Ooh, it's spicy. We're just going to end the show with that one. Fantasy game of the week. And then we're going to end it with DFS values. DFS values. Make sure you're getting in on DraftKings. Make sure you're getting in on FanDuel. Setting your lineups. They're just Sunday million. Imagine you set the right lineup and you cash out with $1 million just off that. Come on. Come on. Imagine going to tell your moms that. Let's get it. So week 11, we got latest injury news. Damian Harris, he's in. He's starting versus Houston. The only downside of that news, not necessarily directly related, but the Patriots did activate Sony Michel, man. And with Michel back, that's going to take carries away from Burkhead. That's going to take carries away from Harris. It's going to take, some snaps away from James White, even though James White is irrelevant at this point in fantasy. But Michel's that back coming back. That's That's just gonna make it dicey for everyone. At least the first week he's back. So next one, Matt Stafford. He's been having a thumb injury, some ligament damage. He's a dog. He's been a dog. So he's playing versus Carolina. I wish that was bigger injury news for their players, but on that same side of the ball, Kenny Golladay, Danny Amendola, and DeAndre Swift are all out for the Lions. And the craziest part about that game, I looked at the spread, and Carolina is underdogs by 2 points. How? How does that make sense? Probably because Bridgewater hasn't got cleared yet, and he's highly questionable. But even with Bridgewater, even if he was out, PJ Walker's the man. I cannot wait. I hope they just rest him, because that knee injury, that did not look good. It was on the verge. It was on the verge, and I ain't going to say it, but it was on the verge. And let that knee rest at least 1 week, especially with his history. And I would love to see PJ Walker go out, throw for 300, and then rush for 50 in a tutty. I think it will be locked in. And what's funny, I ended up picking up PJ Walker in my 2 QB league. Bruh, if he starts, I am starting him rest of season. Because that injury, I wouldn't rush Teddy back. And PJ Walker, he's going to be a dog. The next player who's banged up pretty bad, man. Rib injury. Been dealing with this since 2 games ago. Drew Lock. I don't know whether or not he's actually going to start. But if he does start, that should be an up for Jerry Jeudy. That should be an up for Noah Fant. And in that same sentence, Noah Fant is also playing. He was on the injury report this week, but them two playing should be an up. But I still think they'll lose to Miami. And it should still be a tough game versus Miami with them being home. So if you do have Drew Lock, say in a 2 QB league, find another flex player to throw in there. But Drew Lock, he shouldn't be started in any league unless you're desperate on quarterbacks, like really desperate, and you have league mates who are just picking up 2 or 3, which would be awful. But next person, finally back, big name, Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley is a beast, man. I'll tell you that. With Russell Gage out there, with Zacchaeus, it's just not the same, man. You have Julio Jones as the number 1 when Ridley's out. I mean, he's the number 1 anyway, but when you're the number 1, when the number 2 guy is out, you're getting double, triple covered. It's rough. So Ridley coming back, that's a big boost for both of those guys. They're both going to turn up today versus New Orleans in what should be a high-scoring game. I think Winston should come out and just throw the ball and just sling it. He's trying to get that contract for next year, just like Bridgewater did. And we'll get into that just after I get through the latest injury news. I have my take on that bullshit that came out yesterday about Taysom Hill getting the starts all week. So we'll get to that. Chiefs activating McCole Hardman. That's big. He got activated off the COVID list. Sammy Watkins is out for the Chiefs this week. So McCole Hardman and Demarcus Robinson, if you could get him in, like, say, a deep flex league, I'd start him. He's probably not available, say in, like, I don't know, a 3 wide out double flex league. But if you could go find him, if you have 1 flex, regular wide out, go find McCole Hardman. Go find Demarcus Robinson. Either or is a good flex play this week, especially with Sammy Watkins out. And in a Sunday night game, which should be fire. I cannot wait for the Sunday night game. So, start Hardman, start Robinson. Browns activated Jack Conklin. He was on the COVID list. If they were going to miss Jack Conklin, if he were to miss the game this week, that would be big. It's like for all people on that side of the ball. But the fact that he is playing, Nick Chubb, you seen what he did last week. Kareem Hunt, you see what he did last week. They both dropped the 100 bill. So, Jack Conklin, the fact that he's starting at tackle, that's a big boost for the offensive side of the ball for the Browns. Davante Adams, he missed practice this week. He was limited, and then he didn't practice on Thursday. But Davante Adams at this point in his career, and especially after the production he's been putting in, like his whole career, that's just a vet day. You know, when people are banged up, it's getting to that later part of the season. You got about what, 5, 6, 7 weeks of the regular season. You aren't going to be practicing on that Thursday, so everyone who panicked and was like, oh fuck, like who do I pick up? Adams might miss the game. It's all good. All good. Davante Adams, he's in. Another player on that side of the ball that's finally returning from week 3. That's kind of crazy. You missed 8 weeks throughout the season, and now you're back ready to ball. Allen Lazard. His last game, he had 3 catches for $149 and a touchdown, and then he went down. He has a core muscle injury. That's one of them. He had surgery on. He's working his way back, but that core, man, people don't realize it's always the high-profile injuries that people always get. They're like, oh, fuck, like, he could miss a lot of time. A core injury, do not sleep. So, they said they're going to ease him back in, which I very well think they will do. So, Allen Lazard, if you could pick him up on your fantasy free agent wire, go grab him. But this week, I wouldn't play him. If he does go off, you just got yourself a wide receiver, fringe 2/3 for the rest of the season. So, definitely go check for him on your free agent wire, but don't start Allen Lazard this week. And Davante Adams is playing. McCaffrey's out. Joe Mixon's out this week. And Joe Mixon got put on IR. McCaffrey, he was ruled out early in the week. I thought he'd be able to play this week, but the fact that he got ruled out early really puts it in question for next week. I ended up getting Mike Davis off the free agent wire because he got dropped because nobody, including me, was expecting McCaffrey to just come back and then get re-injured first game back. It's kind of crazy how that works out, but you're definitely, Panthers are 3-7. No reason to rush him back, especially with a shoulder injury that we already seen with Cam. Could take a little bit and could definitely be tricky. So, Joe Mixon, him going on IR, he's out 3 weeks. If you picked up Giovanni Bernard, he's definitely an RB2. Definitely, at the very least, a flex play. If you got him, start him, because he's going to be a beast the rest of the year. And you never know. Someone who gets put on IR this late in the season, it all really depends on how that team does the next few weeks. Say the Bengals go 1-2 or 0-3. They lose a few more games, they aren't going to be in the race in a division that has the Ravens and the Steelers. So, it's one of them things where Joe Mixon, he could end up being a droppable candidate in a few weeks. So we'll see how the Bengals play out. And then Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton's back. The River Red Rocket is back. He's out there slanging. He's slanging rock. And I'm not talking Chrizak. I'm talking he's out there throwing a pigskin. That's a boost for Gallup. That's a boost for Cooper. That's a boost for CeeDee Lamb. I even think, just based off the name, that's a boost for Dalton Schultz. If you need a desperate play at tight end and everyone scooped up off the waiver wire, scoop Dalton Schultz. That boy is going to be serviceable the rest of the year, especially with Andy Dalton coming back. He's going to be a little bit more hesitant to stay in the pocket. I mean, granted, I would too if you just got hit like that and missed because of a concussion the past few weeks, but Dalton coming back, Dalton to Dalton, got a ring to it. Got a ring to it, if you ask me. Kind of sound like money. Send it. Big this week too. Breeze going on IR. Now let me get into this. Shit. This is the worst bit of media. I don't know, media bait you could possibly fall into. It's like, you see it right in front of you, right? Taysom Hill. You see what he is. You see he's not a quarterback. You see Winston get signed. So you already know. First thing you think is, all right, Breeze is the starter. So Winston's clearly signed. So they have a backup quarterback. Not so they have a third quarterback. Not so we could get no opportunities. No. So we could back up Breeze in case he gets hurt because he is 40 years old. Now, months down the line, Breeze now has 11 fractured ribs. Bro, 11. And then at the beginning of the week, they were talking about, oh, we're going to hold him out a week or two. We're not going to put him on IR. Bruh, 11 fractured ribs. He fractured more last week with the flak jacket on. That man is 40. How do you expect that man to come back in a couple weeks? So they did the right thing. They put Breeze on IR. And then they came out, because you know Sean Payton, Super Bowl winner, high caliber coach. That man came out and said, oh, we aren't going to name a starter. And then these reporters who are trying to get the inside scoop from the Saints, they want to drop, oh, Taysom Hill's been getting the starting reps all week in practice. Oh, he's going to start this week. Winston hasn't got a starting rep all week. Blah, blah, blah. And for the people that feed into it, you got to look deeper than that, man. And it's not even that deep, because if he didn't get starting reps this week, guess what? How about the rest of the 10 weeks that they just played? Do you really think they let Winston be the third string in practice? You really think they have Taysom Hill out there giving what challenge to that defense? You know what I mean? He's not getting any starting rep. He's obviously getting some for the plays he runs. And he probably knows all the plays. But when you see him out there throwing the ball, he got 2 gloves on. Vic ain't even wear 2 gloves, bro. Vic ain't even wear 2 gloves. I ain't even see 2 gloves since what? Since I don't even know when. So when he out there playing with 2 gloves, come on. You know he ain't out there to fucking pass the ball. That's what I'm getting at. So, Spicy Sunday. It's crazy on the injury wire. Injury wire, waiver wire. Call it what you will. Call it what you will. Moving on, we got the props, we got the locks, and we got the parlay of the day. Shout out Anchor. Uploaded my podcast to Anchor. They distributed it to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Breaker, wherever else you get your podcasts. And I'm on YouTube. Fucking send it. We're getting started, and Anchor is one of the best podcast platforms to get started on. So make sure you sign up, and when you do, if there's a reference spot, just type in Moons. Don't know who I am. You don't even put my name, just Moons. Okay, that kid with the High Stakes Takes podcast. That kid with the Spicy 7. The Saucy 7. You dig what I'm saying? So make sure if you're interested in podcasting, it's very easy. Go to Anchor, sign up, drop Moons in the reference, and get it saucy. So props, locks, and the parlay of the day. My props. got the saucy 7. Damian Harris over 56 yards. That was the initial line I saw it at. That has now changed to 70 yards. I guess because they probably seen Sony Michel returning, that, oh, he's not going to get that many rushing attempts. But when Belichick has the number one running back, which he hasn't really had, because Michel never panned out to be that. But once he sees that, that's a workhorse right there. Belichick loves himself a workhorse running back, and especially Damian Harris out of Alabama. This line is now at 69.5 rushing yards. Either way, I'm taking the over on his rushing yards. Playing Houston, who just gave up 200-yard rushers in Hunt, and Chubb. We're just going to combine them. They just, right? They each had a hundy, so they just hubbed them. So that's easy right there. That's the lock. That's a prop and a lock all in one. Lock it in, over 69.5. The next one I got, Miles Sanders, over 65.5 rushing yards. No clue why it's so low. He has over 80 yards in 5 or 6 games this year. Only missed it on one game, and he missed a couple other games with injury. But it's one of them, come on. He's playing Cleveland, who Myles Garrett just got put on the COVID list, which is, shout out to him. I hope he recovers, because it's always a dicey situation. But Miles Sanders facing a defense who just lost their top edge rusher and a big presence on the rush. Lock it in over 65.5. The next one I got, Mahomes. Mahomes over 2.5 passing touchdowns. Last week, I locked that one in, and he nailed it, bruh. Faced Carolina, dropped 4 touchdowns in a game where, surprisingly, the Chiefs' defense gave up a lot of points to Carolina. Carolina ended up having a game-winning field goal opportunity that was well short, but it came down to some yards, man. It's one of them games where the Chiefs don't really give up that much. And then you have Bridgewater out there, first quarter, 2 touchdowns, 100 yards. It doesn't look good on the Chiefs' defensive side of the ball. So they're going to give up a lot of points versus the Raiders tonight. This Sunday night game is going to be the game of the week. Going to be the fantasy game of the week. Any fantasy players, make sure you start them. Even Le'Veon Bell. And all wide receivers for the Chiefs. Hardman, Robinson, Hill. Make sure you start them. And they're going to be balling. The over-under on that game is 56.5. So it's already projected to be a high-scoring game. And in their previous game, in Arrowhead Stadium, which is the outdoor stadium, 72 points combined without overtime. Now you're talking Sunday night football, turning up. Raiders got, 8 to 12 players coming off the COVID list? It's dicey. Not that they had COVID, but they were just high contact. But missing 4 plus days of practice just throws a loop in everything. And especially when you've been doing the same thing all season. And then all of a sudden, you're isolated, and it's 8 to 10 players, and a lot of players on the defense. Man, it's gonna just opens up a lot of opportunities for the offense, especially because you don't really see what practice brings to you. But then you look at a situation like Cam Newton, right? Missed a week of practice. Could have been a little longer than that. That was early in the season. I think they moved some games around, but missed at least a week of practice. And then came back and he was buns. And that's my dog, man. Signed jersey and everything. Missed that, man. There's no way we should have got rid of him. I mean, I'm satisfied with Bridgewater's performance on the field, but come on, man. Missing practice, that definitely throws a loop in things. So definitely slam Mahomes over 2.5. He has 9 touchdowns the past 2 weeks. Now, that ain't no joke. That means one game you have 5, and one game you have 4. Bruh. The fact that he even throws 5 touchdowns in multiple games in a season is fucking ridiculous. And you got the Sunday night football under the lights, $500 million man, $500 million man showing up to turn up. And you got Le'Veon, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Hill, Kelsey. Turn up. Those odds are sitting at plus 110. Definitely slam the over 2.5. The next one we got J.D. McKissick. The over-under on that is 4.5 receptions. Like, who sets these odds? I don't understand. That man has 29 targets over the past 2 weeks. And then 16 catches in those 2 games. Bruh, the fact that you are even getting 10 plus targets a game as a running back and your name's not Le'Veon Bell or Christian McCaffrey is fucking ridiculous. And then the over-under to be set at 4.5. I think the odds on that one may be like minus 180 or it's high for a player prop, but lock it in because you know you're winning, and whatever you bet, you won't lose. So make sure you get that end amount and make sure you look at your bets. And when you see J.D. McKissick out there, because you go through the whole sheet of prop bets and you're looking, and there's some that stand out to you, but then there's some you look at the odds and you shy away from it a little bit. But it doesn't matter. As long as you're winning, you aren't losing what you put up there. And then after they hit, whatever you win, you throw that on the next parlay. And then throw whatever you bet on the more solidified bet. Either a 2-team parlay or just a straight up over. And then you know you're never losing money as long as that single parlay hits. Right? And as long as you're locked in and it's betting, so you aren't going to be perfect. People who are hitting 60%, that's fucking good. And it's kind of like, it kind of reminds me of baseball when you look at it and it's like, oh, he's batting fucking 350 on the season. That man's hitting everything. But then when you look in reality, he's only hitting 35 out of every 100 balls, which is not that good. So that's kind of how it is with betting. And especially when your high stakes takes, and at least 75% of the bets that we hit all have plus odds. It's tune into the end of the podcast. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you follow. It's either Robin with 2 L's, 2 lowercase L's, or 2 capital I's on Twitter. You could DM with any questions on your prop bets, on your parlays, on an over-under. Throughout any sport, I'll be answering all questions. Always available. DMs are open. We out here getting to it. And you could also see the 2020 hitters. I dropped that thread on Twitter. It's doing numbers. Make sure you go check it out. It's crazy. There's 4 picks uploaded, and because that's the max per every tweet. And I think we have this 10 plus on there. 10 plus, like different parts of the thread. It's fucking ridiculous. And I also have on there my losses too, and my close losses. So there was one time with Wolfsburg, and I think Charles Bird in UFC. Only one loss on a 6-team, 7-team, and an 8-team parlay. And those each just one loss blew it for me. That's a lot of money. That's at least plus 6,000 odds on each of them. It's fucking ridiculous. And if we don't hit the crazy parlays, our pick percentage is fuego. So We're really doing this to make sure we get out the content. We're winning, and we want to make sure the folks out there who are just getting started or maybe into it but can't really figure out like the type of wave to get on to really start hitting more than you are. So high stakes takes, we're locked in, dropping content every week, and definitely follow, definitely stay up to date, and all our bets before the games happen will be dropped on the social media accounts. So make sure you're tuned in, locked in, and we on fire. The last prop bet we have is Alvin Kamara over 4.5 receptions. The fact that his over under is so low, it's probably because Taysom Hill, they just came out. We already went through that. They just came out and said, oh yeah, he's going to be starting. We know that's not going to be the fucking case. If he gets over 10, if he gets over 20 snaps, and if he gets over 10 passing attempts, bro, give me the over-under on that shit, right? The fuck? It's so crazy that they think they're going to sign a quarterback just like Bridgewater. Literally same scenario. And they're not going to play him. You don't think that boy could be out there eating the dubs, bro? He said, oh, eat the dub. You could be out there eating dubs, bro. Come on. Stop playing with that, man. And then it's wild. It's a wild bet. Jacoby Myers over 4.5. And Lamar Jackson over 53.5 rushing yards. We seen what Nyheim Hines did to Tennessee. We seen what Myers did last week versus Baltimore. Baltimore, they have a tough-ass defense. In a downpour, Myers still had 5 catches. This week, he is going to eat versus Houston. And then Lamar Jackson, Tennessee gave up 70 fucking yards on 12 rushes to Nyheim Hines out of nowhere. Fucking send it. The over-under on that might shift like all the way up to 60. So it's always good to make sure you're checking the prop bets for when they first drop. And especially on the Rhode Island Sportsbook app, they always drop around like 4 to 8 o'clock in the morning. They'll all start coming in. And you want to get them early. You don't sleep right before game time and think you're going to get a good, I look at it as a good rate, right? Like get on a car. I'm trying to get the best rate I can. If you get that shit late, that's the new sauce. That's the new sauce. If you get there late, you ain't gonna get the best rate. That's just what it is. Let's spark to that. So make sure you lock in the Saucy 7, Damian Harris over, Sanders over, Miles Sanders, Mahomes over, McKissick over, Lamar Jackson over, Jacoby Myers over, and Alvin Kamara over. Fucking send it. My locks of the week are, we have 3 of them. Definitely put them in a parlay and definitely single them. We have New England minus 135 on the money line. They're plus 2.5 on the spread, but I wouldn't take them on the spread and fuck with them losing by 2 or winning by 2 and then just kicking a field goal to win at the end. That shit's disgusting. And New England's coming off a big W versus Baltimore. Lock them in. On that same slate, we got Titans versus Baltimore. Baltimore's going to run all over Tennessee. They're going to put up a 30-piece themselves, a little 30-piece chicken tender. It's all if Tennessee could get that running game going. If Tannehill could actually utilize Corey Davis and A.J. Brown, and then Jonnu Smith has maybe a touchdown on 5 catches, that game is definitely going to hit the over. That shit's low right now at 49.5. The fact that it's so low, I don't get why. So definitely slam the over on that. And then the next one, Sunday night game of the week. I fucking can't wait. That shit. Seeing Mahomes And then Derek Carr in a divisional matchup. Both running backs on fire. Raiders don't really have that good of wide receivers, but on the defensive side of the ball with Abram, and then you just Gruden, and in the new stadium in Vegas, that shit's gonna be spice and dice tonight, bro. So slam the over, 56.5. Last game they had 72 points combined without overtime. So slam the over on that. Make sure you parlay them in threes. That seems to be the lucky number. So when it comes to parlays, it's lucky number 3 for me. And then make sure you do the singles just in case one of them does fuck up. And then my parlay of the day is that 3. And then we'll move on to soccer. Have those 3. And then Lille versus Lorient. Over 2.5 goals. Lille, their attack is just fucking ridiculous. With Jonathan David. And then you got Jonathan Bamba. And then you got Icone. They're filthy up front. They could put up goals. Last game, they lost 3-2. Because in the French league, they don't really play defense. But the over-under on that game, odds are even at 2.5. So take the over. Now that's 4 teams. Next team, Napoli versus AC Milan. That's over in Italy. The over-under on that game is 2.5. And the last game they played this year, back in July, that game was 2-2. And then now, with AC Milan having Ibrahimovic, and then Napoli being fully healthy up front with Insigne, it's so easy. Over 2.5 in that game. Slam it. That game might even hit 6 goals. I see a 3-3. So, game definitely should be high tempo, back and forth. Over 2.5 is easy. Take a look at the over 3.5 with the added market bet. That's also a good look. And then the game at 11 in the Premier League, it Leeds versus Arsenal. That game's sitting at over 2.5. It's like straight money. You got Bamford on Leeds United, and then you got Arsenal with their trio up front with Pepe. You got Aubameyang, and then you got Lacazette. They're money. So the over-under on that game is at 2.5. That's definitely going to hit. And then the same thing with the Napoli versus AC Milan game. Take a look at the added market bet. Because the over 3.5 in that game is even more money than the Napoli game. That might be sitting at maybe plus 180 odds. So, and then the last leg to this parlay of the day. Leicester versus Liverpool. I can't fucking wait for that game, man. You got Vardy, high-powered offense in Leicester. Hopefully they start Harvey Barnes. You got Liverpool with Diego Jota coming off international play with all the high-powered players at Portugal. You got him. Hopefully they start him at striker, and then they move Firmino back at central attacking midfield, because Firmino has always been known as the striker to drop back anyway. And the fact that he could play defense just a little bit, just enough to play midfield, and he could also pass the ball well. And once he gets into the position to finish, he's not